All right, let's dive into a really powerful mental model today. It's one of those simple ideas that once you hear it, you'll start seeing it everywhere. It's called Chesterton's fence, and honestly, understanding its logic can completely change how you solve problems and, more importantly, stop you from accidentally making things worse. So, just imagine for a moment, you're out for a walk on a clear path, and right in the middle of it, there's a fence. It's not enclosing a field, it's not keeping animals in or out, it just seems totally random, totally useless. So what do? If you're like me, your first thought is probably, well, this is dumb. Let's get rid of it. It's in the way, it serves no purpose. Seems like a no-brainer, right? But hold on. This is exactly where the principle of Chesterton's fence kicks in. So where does this idea even come from? Well, it all starts with a simple little story, a kind of mystery that we need to solve. The story, which comes from the writer G.K. Chesterton, puts us right in the shoes of a reformer, someone who sees a problem and wants to make things better. And this reformer stumbles across the exact same fence we were just talking about. And this is their immediate reaction. It's a totally logical but very hasty conclusion. Because there's no obvious reason for the fence, the obvious solution must be to tear it down. It's a classic knee-jerk reaction to what looks like a simple problem. But here's the twist. The story isn't really about a wooden fence at all. It's a metaphor, a crucial rule for anyone who ever tries to change or improve anything. And this right here, this is the golden rule. This is the core insight of the whole thing. Before you take down that fence, before you change that long-standing policy, you have an obligation. You must first understand why it was put there to begin with. And this powerful idea is what we call Chesterton's fence. You can think of it as a mental speed bump. It's a principle designed to slow down our impulse to act, forcing us to admit that maybe, just maybe, we don't have the full picture just yet. See, the key thing to realize is that most things, rules, traditions, processes, were created for a reason. Now, that reason might have been forgotten a long, long time ago, but just because the reason is forgotten doesn't mean the fence isn't still doing its job. Tearing it down without knowing why it's there could accidentally unleash the very problem it was built to solve. So, this principle really splits people into two camps when it comes to making change. You have the hasty reformer, and then you have the intelligent one. Okay, so look at this. What's so fascinating is that both reformers start in the exact same spot. They both look at the fence and think, I don't see the point of this. But that's where their paths split, big time. The hasty reformer acts on that incomplete information and just tears it down, risking all sorts of unknown consequences. The intelligent reformer, on the other hand, sees their own ignorance as the first problem they need to solve. And this is the absolute key. The intelligent reformer has a much higher standard for action. They believe they don't even have the right to suggest removing the fence until they can confidently explain to the person who built it exactly why they did it. It's about respecting that there was a reason, even if you can't see it yet. So this gives us a really simple but powerful 5-step process. First, you don't just see the fence, you really observe it. Then, instead of assuming it's useless, you start asking questions. Then you have to do a little digging, investigate its history, until you finally get it, you understand the why. And only then, when you have all the facts, do you act. Okay, so this is a great story from over a century ago, but you might be thinking, what does this have to do with me today? Well, as it turns out, everything. Because our modern world is full of these invisible fences. Seriously, these fences are everywhere once you start looking for them. Think about that one company policy that seems completely ridiculous and just slows everyone down. That's a fence. Or what about that chunk of old legacy code that every programmer is terrified to touch? Yep, that's a fence too. It could be an old social tradition, a community rule, anything that feels inefficient but has been around forever. So the next time you get that itch to disrupt something, to streamline a process, or fix a system that just feels broken, pause, take a breath. Challenge yourself to be the intelligent reformer. Do the archaeology first. You might just discover that the thing you thought was a problem is actually a clever, long-forgotten solution. So, as we wrap this up, I want to bring this idea right back to you and how you can start using it right away. Look, if you remember just one thing from all of this, let it be this distinction. Anyone can tear something down. It's easy to be a hasty reformer who ends up creating 10 new problems by solving an old one. The real challenge, the real goal, is to have the patience and the curiosity to be an intelligent reformer. So I'll leave you with this to think about. What's a fence in your job, in your community, maybe even in your own personal habits that you've been wanting to tear down? And what do you think you might discover if, before you did anything, you first tried to truly understand why it was ever put up?